Every supply run for Bikes Inc. was an uphill climb, and delivery
What's up, y'all? Hope everybody out there is having an awesome Friday. I have some breaking news for you. So, let's start with this. Apparently, Trump exploded and lost his temper during a security meeting, and he was shouting and cursing out of frustration over the fact that he kind of knows he lost the Iran war. Okay? So he was presented with military options moving forward, and he apparently was furious at the lack of progress toward making a deal. This is kind of an incredible story from NBC News, particularly because he seemingly is completely and utterly unaware of, like, what the Iranians are thinking, what they're feeling, how they've openly said repeatedly, not only do they not want to talk to the U.S. right now, but they never want to talk to the U.S. as long as Donald J. Trump is president, because they know that he lies about absolutely everything. He can't uphold a deal. Netanyahu lies about everything. Israel can't uphold a deal. So this is insane because Trump seemingly thought, like, hey, it doesn't matter how many times I don't abide by an agreement, they're still going to come crawling back to me, and they're still going to, want to make some sort of a deal whenever I want to make a deal. But the fact of the matter now is we are running out of munitions, and the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Bab el-Mandeb is closed. We're blowing through the strategic reserve. So he's panicking, man. He is absolutely panicking. So a U.S. official added, quote, "After all this time, there is no unity inside the administration, which is facing a strategic defeat without clear policy guidance or a decision about where this is going." An ally close to Trump adds that the president is, quote, "exasperated, and there was not a real strategy for how long or what they should do." When I tell you this is a baboon regime, I say it because I mean it. This is as baboony as baboons get. Okay? No plan whatsoever, throwing feces against the wall, desperate, no clue what to do moving forward, now screaming at his advisors and screaming at the military because he's caught, he's in a corner, he's trapped. And so this is a very terrifying place to be because
Want to get this damage machine for free? Use the code NEMESIS to claim the epic Akemtum.
I could absolutely see him crashing out and doing something devastating, whether that be, ordering an invasion of Karg Island or Keshem Island, or a ground invasion, or dropping a Moab, or using a nuke. Remember, there was talk about a week or two ago that the Israelis were pushing for, and Trump was leaning in favor of, using strategic nuclear weapons, bunker-busting nuclear weapons, at this place called Pickaxe Mountain, where they say the nuclear material is being hidden. So this is where we're at right now. We're at this crossroads where either Trump just accepts the big, fat, juicy L, or he does something incredibly idiotic that will go down in history as absolutely catastrophic. And as I keep telling you guys, I fear that the latter is what's going to happen, right? I would rather him accept the big, fat, juicy L, but I feel like that's kind of unlikely given his mental makeup, given his character. He can't even acknowledge when he loses a golf event, or an election for that matter. So the idea that he's going to acknowledge that he lost this war is honestly laughable. And I mean, shit, I feel like we've all gotten used to the chaos, but it's about to smack us over the head very aggressively and remind us that there are consequences. So, it seems like he had almost an enlightenment moment where he went, what the fuck? What am I supposed to do now? I have no idea what to do now. Because Iran is not just... They thought, like, the more we bomb them, the more we commit war crimes against them, the more that Iran will somehow, like, bend the knee and say, sir, yes, sir, whatever you want, sir. But in reality, the opposite happened. The more we committed war crimes against them, the more they were like, hey, fuck these people. We don't have to make a deal with them. We can keep the Strait of Hormuz shut. Now they shut Bab el-Mandeb, the Houthis did. And so... okay, incoming recession or depression, incoming $6 a gallon gas, $7 a gallon gas, as soon as they run out of all their tricks that they're using to cover up the crisis. So prepare yourself, man, because shit is about to get absolutely wild. And by the way, they're still now on a daily basis. I just saw there was a number of ships that Iran seized and or attacked that, again, it was the U.S. trying to use an alternate route through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran warned the ships and then went ahead and attacked some and seized others. Like, it's happening, bro. It's all happening. It is not fucking pretty right now. So we're still getting shooting back and forth. We're still getting ships being seized and things of that nature. So yikes is all I have to say about that. And Lord only knows where this goes from here. All right, listen to this, too. This is crazy. So Navigator, which is this polling company, they released this thing called a word cloud, which shows, like, when you ask Trump voters who regretted voting for Trump, when you ask them, hey, what makes you say that? What issue makes you say that? Ready for this? The number one issue that Trump voters who were feeling regret cited was the war. Now, by the way, this flies in the face of conventional wisdom in Washington, D.C., that people don't care about foreign policy. Well, the fact of the matter is, perhaps that was true in the past at some point, but what people are realizing now is foreign policy is linked directly to domestic economic policy. Because, like, Trump literally says, like, we're not going to do daycare, we're not going to fund Medicare and Medicaid, because we can't, because we're at war. I don't care about your financial situation at all, he says. I just care about stopping Iran from getting a nuke. So people are realizing, oh my God, these issues are one and the same, right? And so the number one issue regretful Trump supporters cite is the war. Right behind that, in a close second, is the economy. Another thing that they say is, like, promises not kept. They bring up promises not kept. You also have, smaller here, but they say things like, he doesn't care. Like, he just simply doesn't care. Prices is another one that comes up quite a bit. Crime is cited here, and I think that the crime, honestly, when people say that, what they mean is corruption. What they mean is Trump's crime, like the crime spree that his crime family is on. But a lot of stuff here, man. War is the biggest regret. They hate that he started the Iran war. Breaking his promises, the economy, prices. So a lot of stuff there and a lot of regretful Trump supporters. Now, on that point, new Quinnipiac poll just came out. Generic ballot polling trend among independent voters. So all the way back in 2018, when the Democrats had a big wave, Democrats were plus 11 with independents going into the midterms, okay? October of 2022, right before that midterm election, where the Democrats actually overperformed. Everybody was saying red wave, red wave, red wave. I wasn't. I thought, like, oh, I don't know if there's going to be a red wave. I feel like it might be a relatively equal election. I think the Democrats are going to do better than people think they're going to do, okay? The polling leading up to that race had Republicans plus 9 with independents. And again, Democrats sort of overperformed and kept it relatively even Stevens. Well, now, July of 2026, what's the independent polling number? It is plus 22 Democrat. Plus 22. So that might even be in underrepresentation. Because again, it was plus 11 in 2018, Democratic wave. It is double that now in 2026. So, bro, these people are struggling, to say the least. New Trump approval polls just this week in high quality polls. So CNN has him at 34%. The AP has him at 33%. And Quinnipiac has him at 32% skis, y'all. 32, 34, 33, 32. That is catastrophic. That might be the single worst stretch of polling in modern American history. I know it sounds crazy to say those words, but it's true. We also have, when you look at an average of all of the polls right now for Trump, ready for this? He's at 60.5% disapproval and only 36.4% approval. His average is a 36% approval rating, y'all. His average is a 36% approval rating. Astonishing stuff. I mean, that is just... I mean, that is like, there's no hope for you at that point. Like, you almost should resign out of embarrassment at that point, right? Like, everybody fucking hates you. All you have left is the cult. And yes, the cult continues to cult, but everybody outside of that fucking despises you. And on that note, we had Elon Musk decide, well, now I'm going to jump into the midterms because apparently these Republicans need help. And he's promising a huge investment to boost Republican voter turnout. So he's resuscitating his dormant super PAC, America PAC, which, by the way, didn't he commit like federal crimes with this PAC? I think he was committing multiple federal crimes by promising people money to vote. Pretty sure that's wildly illegal, and that's one of like 28 things he's done where he should be in prison. But he's resuscitating America PAC, which spent more than $260 million to help get Trump elected in 2024. And they say America PAC is going to focus on door knocking, digital advertising, and direct mail aimed at turning out the conservative base, including voters who typically are less inclined to cast ballots in a non-presidential election. Okay. Now, here's the thing. It's insane that any billionaire is allowed to do this at all. This should be completely and utterly illegal. It is wildly corrupt. Having said that, I support it because he's just about to waste $260 million. Like, this is literally just like, let me piss away a preposterous amount of money. Because there's no way this is going to have any impact whatsoever. I'm sorry. The vibes are too strong. People's political opinions are too locked in. So effectively, this guy is just going to waste more of his money. But this goes to show you, literally nobody, forget just being a trillionaire. Nobody should be a trillionaire, which he was for a short amount of time. But nobody should even be a billionaire. Can we be serious here? I've always said you should max out at $999 million. Every fucking dollar above $999,999,999 should be taxed at 100%. And even there, I feel like perhaps I'm being too lax, right? Like, I feel like maybe the better thing to do is almost lower that to, like, you shouldn't have more than $100 million. Because when you think about $100 million is more than anybody can spend in a single lifetime, assuming they're reasonable people and they don't have a fucking mental disorder. Being a billionaire is a mental disorder at this point, right? So, like, if you have more than $100 million and you, I don't have enough, seriously, go fucking seek help, okay? But this is what we get when we have a trillionaire, a multi-hundred billionaire. Like, this is what they do. They'll buy like private islands that are basically countries and buy entire governments to rig the rules in their favor. And then we look around and go, why is democracy waning? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because it's under assault by trillionaire and billionaire assholes who are the worst people in the world, who all have a mental disorder and who are all sociopathic to their core. Maybe that. All right, let me also give you this. So the Trump administration has announced that diamonds will be exempt from tariffs. And this is just a few weeks prior, to this, to Trump saying that diamonds are going to be exempt from tariffs. One of the world's largest foreign diamond exporters presented Trump with a diamond-studded ring. So, yet again, you literally can't make this stuff up. The corruption is so direct and so brazen and so over the top. There's apparently a big Wall Street Journal report that just came out. I didn't get a chance to read it yet. But it basically describes how Trump is running an extortion ring. And I believe the quote in the title is something like, "The boss wants his money." So now people are opening up to the reality that, as I've said on this show before, this is no longer a democracy. It's no longer a constitutional republic. We're a mobocracy. He's running it like a mob, right? And we could use oligarchy. We could use the word kakistocracy. We absolutely can use the word fascism and imperialism. But mobocracy, I feel like, is a very accurate way of describing what's going on here. In fact, Trump made over $2.4 billion last year, according to a new report, which is more money than he made any other year in his life. Think about that. Sitting president making more money than he made any other year in his life. That alone on its face should immediately lead to impeachment. That alone on its face should immediately trigger the 25th Amendment. Because there's no way you can do that without being a wildly corrupt. There's no way you can do that without fucking running crypto scams, without doing a pay-for-pardon scheme. All these things wildly illegal. Taking a tremendous amount of money from foreign governments. It's a joke. It's a sick fucking joke is what it is. Apparently, we also have this. An Indiana data center project cut power for tornado warning sirens ahead of a severe local storm. Which yet again shows that these data centers are taking priority over regular people. And there's this brewing colossal backlash against data centers because people are sick of this shit. They're sick of this shit. People do not want all these data centers sucking up all of the fresh water, sucking up all the energy, leading to blackouts and brownouts, creating AI that kills our jobs. I mean, this is just, everybody hates this shit. Nobody wants this shit. It's only the billionaires and the trillionaires who are going to get phenomenally wealthy off this that want it, even though it's like civilization-killing technology. It's astonishing. All right, on data centers, so the Trump administration has now announced plans to build AI data centers on federal land in all of the following states. Ready? Kentucky, Ohio, South Carolina, Nevada, Idaho, Illinois, New York, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Oregon, Colorado, Tennessee, Washington, New Jersey, New Mexico, California, Texas, and Missouri. So, when I tell you that this regime is sold out to every single big money interest in this country, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I mean, I'm talking military-industrial complex. I'm talking Israel lobby. I'm talking Wall Street. I'm talking the tech AI demons. All of them completely own this regime, and they will make every decision that they make is to benefit them and not to benefit you. I mean, this is crazy. And this is now one of the biggest issues in various elections around the country. So, for example, we have Francesca Hong running for governor of Wisconsin. One of her big things, she's a Democratic socialist. One of her big things is she's against these data centers. She wants a moratorium on the data centers. And she's crushing all the competition, crushing them, not even close. And get this, we also have Francesca Hong is promising to fight Trump on Wisconsin's National Guard participation in illegal wars, saying we will not help you with any of your illegal wars. She's refusing state police cooperation with the feds on NSPM 7, which of course is where they try to criminalize dissent. She's refusing any state support for ICE, saying we're never going to work with ICE. And she wants to convert the local defense industry into peace production. Think about that. Incredible. She's such an amazing candidate. She's up massively. Can't wait for her to win with her upcoming primary. I think is it August 11th? Put in the comment section. But if you're in Wisconsin, vote for Francesca Hong. She's going to be a real one, man. I could already tell. I think she was on Breaking Points last week, and Crystal was very impressed with her. All right. So how about this? When we talk about the MAGA death cult, ready? There's a new political poll that came out. And they say here, share of Trump voters who self-identify as MAGA and would vote for the Republican candidate through the following scandals if the midterms were tomorrow. Ready for this? 82% of Republican voters, or self-described MAGA, would vote for a Republican if they were using tax loopholes. 76% would vote for one if they were convicted of DUI. 75% would vote for a MAGA candidate even if they had accepted gifts from lobbyists and they were brazenly corrupt. 74% said, I would vote for the candidate if they were caught wearing blackface. 74% said, I would vote for them if they were accused of workplace bullying. 72% said, I would vote for them if they're accused of domestic violence. 69% said, I would vote for them if they concealed a terminal illness. 66% said, I would vote for them if they were selling misleading medical treatments. 66% said, I would support them if they were accused of sexual assault. By the way, that's a lie. It is not 66% of MAGA that would support a Republican who was accused of sexual assault. It is 100% of MAGA because they all definitionally support Trump. So 100% of MAGA is okay with people being accused of sexual assault, as long as they're a Republican. As long as they hate black and brown people and Muslims and every minority and trans people and every minority group in this country. Insanity. 65% said, I would support them if they exaggerated military service. 58% said I would support them if they made anti-Semitic statements. 57% said I would support them if they shared classified information with a foreign government. You literally can't make this shit up. So when we say it's a motherfucking cult, that's what we mean. I mean, shit. Al Franken got kicked out as a senator when he took a picture pretending to grope a sleeping woman who was wearing a Kevlar vest. Didn't actually touch her, pretended to touch her. Boom, gone, son. Gone. Democrats all were like, get the fuck out of the caucus, get the fuck out of the government. We're done with you. Graham Plattner got kicked to the motherfucking curb as soon as you had more serious allegations that came out against him, and not just allegations of him being a bad boyfriend, right? And now, look at these Republicans. We got Max Miller, who's assaulting his wife, who allegedly broke his daughter's collarbone, his toddler-age daughter's collarbone. We got the other guy, Corey Mills, who's committed all kinds of corruption, all kinds of violent assault. We got Trump himself, who's in the motherfucking Epstein files and is accused of raping 13-year-olds and shit. Right? They don't care. They have no standards, none whatsoever. Literally zero. I refuse to live in this political world, ladies and gentlemen. Either we have standards for everybody or standards for nobody. Period. End of story. I'm not doing this anymore where we destroy our own side and they have no standards for their own side and get away with anything and fucking everything. And by the way, they ended up winning the presidency, the House, the Senate, and they hold the judiciary. Right? We can't have a world where they have no standards, but they also win everything. And we need to have the strictest standards and lose every fucking 7 seconds. Fuck that. Fuck that. Not interested in that. Jesus Christ. Oh, my days. Okay. So you ready for this? Here's a fun fact, and shout out to the main Twitter account for this. Mitch McConnell has taken more medical leave in 2026 than most mothers in America get for maternity leave. Do you believe that? And as the Fuck You, I Quit Twitter account says, fun fact, Mitch McConnell has voted against practically every federal paid leave bill in existence. So he gets to take off however much time he wants, but you need to get the fuck back to work or get fired instantly. Okay? Now, by the way, this might all come to naught because he might just be dead this entire time, right? Like, it's possible he's just dead. He's just been dead all along, right? So, in that case, it's a little different. But they're literally doing a Weekend at Bernie's type shit, except it's literally Weekend at Mitchie's. And it is disturbing. All right, now let's talk about this as well. So you have, this is a Reuters headline. Ready for this? The U.S. government map of Africa mislabels every country at global conference. So what happened here was they decided to use AI and nobody decided to follow up with a motherfucking fact check. Every single country in Africa was mislabeled and they're at a fucking global conference. Oh my days. Oh no. I'm sorry. We are so washed. This country is so washed. This country is beyond Celtic Shack at this point. Celtic Shack looks like Prime Shack from where we're sitting in this country. Oh my days, what are we doing? I mean, it's every day, it's another fucking global embarrassment, one after the other after the other. And then we're surprised when, like, you poll people and basically everybody's like, oh yeah, I hate the Americans. Like, well, what do you expect? We bomb people for no fucking reason. We lie to them and violate our trade agreements and all sorts of deals with them. Trump threatens to tariff people every 14 seconds. And then you get stuff like this where, like, we're just the most incompetent motherfuckers on planet Earth. Speaking of incompetent, Vivek Ramaswamy, who is, of course, running for Ohio governor, probably going to get his cheeks clapped in this blue wave year, okay? He was at some event, and he was booed off stage after telling an Ohio crowd, quote, "The truth of the matter is, people in my generation have already made it. We're going to be fine." I don't know why he's saying that. Bro's like a Gen Xer, right? If you look at the statistics, the numbers, yeah, the boomers relative to other generations are doing much better financially, but Gen X is not doing all that great, right? Like, people are struggling in that generation. So what the fuck is this? How are you going to run for governor and be like, all right, y'all, everything's pretty good, right? Like, y'all are good if you're about my age. I don't even need to really do shit for you because everything's okay. Everything's hunky-dory. No, you idiot. That's not true. Imagine saying this at a time when, like, basically 85 to 90% of the country already feels like they're in a recession or a depression. Imagine that. And that's what he's doing. Because the Republican mindset literally has nothing to do with helping you. Like, that's not, they don't get into government to help you. They get into government to prove that government can't fix shit. And then they do that by dismantling everything that works about our government. And so Vivek just absolutely humiliating himself yet again. Imagine getting booed off stage while you're running for governor. That's like a nightmare scenario. Speaking of a nightmare scenario, so it wasn't that long ago, it was about a decade ago, that the standard line among right-wingers was that, no, Hitler wasn't far right. Hitler was actually on the left. That's what you stupid liberals and leftists need to acknowledge, is that you own Hitler. It was called National Socialism. Socialism is a left-wing idea. This was the standard line. So, for example, we have Steven Crowder, the man who is very likely deep in the closet and just desperately wants to come out as trans, because every opportunity or non-opportunity that he gets, he decides to throw on some fake-ass titties and some long-ass hair and do some sketch comedy where he's a woman. And, you know, he only does it for the lulz. I only dress up like a woman every other week for the lulz, bro. And then you got all the horrible stories about how he puts his ball sack on his fucking employees and shit. And the employees are like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, bro, I'm just joshing, bro. I'm just joshing. What, you don't like to have fun, bro? I'm just joshing over here, bro. This guy's got problems on top of problems within problems. By the way, look at, he's one of those guys that has, like, everybody who ever worked under him only says horrible things about him now that they're out of under his control, right? So and there's that video of him abusing his wife. Remember that? Anyway, I digress. He's a horrible person. But a decade ago, he posted, yes, Hitler was a liberal socialist. That was a video that he posted. And And it almost got 800,000 views, really huge numbers on that. Well, now they decided to stop playing this stupid game where they lie about absolutely everything. And they're a little high on their own supply right now. So sometimes they accidentally tell the truth. They say the quiet part out loud. And just the other day, he posted a video. I'm not kidding. The title is "The Case for Fascism." And in the thumbnail, you have a picture of Trump and historic fascists, not Mussolini, not Hitler, but other historic fascists, right? And it says, "We need fascism." The case for fascism and we need fascism. What happened? I thought fascism was a left-wing idea, and that's why it's so bad, because it's a left-wing idea, bro. Now, sorry. Are we in 2026 and we have fascists in power and they're doing fascist shit and now we're coming out of the closet? Okay, I guess I'll stop playing cutesy with it and I'll tell you the truth that Steven Crowder thinks we need fascism. So just understand this. They lie about fucking everything. And this is the way it works. If they say they're in favor of bad things, they're telling the truth. They're in favor of bad things. Whenever they lie and pretend like they're in favor of good things, that's the lie. They don't mean that. It's a law of nature. If a Republican says they're going to do something good, they're lying. They're not going to do it. If they say they're going to do something bad, that's when they're telling the truth. They're going to do that. Right? And here we go. Here's the fucking, the fascists are all left-wing, bro. That's why fascism is bad. It's so left-wing, bro. And then now it's, oh no, fascism is right-wing, and we need fascism. I love fascism. So at least they're being honest. At least they're being honest now. Thank you for the honesty on this front. Okay. And then I'll give you this as well. So the Democrats Deliver account on Twitter pointed out, Minnesota Democrats passed a bill banning AI-generated porn, and Elon Musk's AI company is now suing to block the bill. You cannot make it up. You cannot make it up. By the way, we talked to Ashley St. Clair, as you all know, on Crystal Kyle and Friends. And Ashley St. Clair was like, people were making atrocious child porn pictures of me when she was feuding with Elon. And I think there's lawsuits over it and shit. So this is a serious fucking thing here, man. Like, that people make all sorts of disgusting images with Grok. And I think they may have changed that because of the lawsuits. But Elon Musk company is suing to block the bill, saying, no, I want to be able to make AI-generated child porn. I mean, what do you even say about that? What the fuck do you even say about that? By the way, everybody check out Crystal Kyle and Friends dropping later today. We have Rania Khalek from Breakthrough News coming on. For those of you who don't know, Breakthrough News is right now being politically persecuted by the Trump regime. They got subpoenaed, all because they're an anti-imperialist news outlet. And this is all under NSPM 7. This is all under the attempt to criminalize dissent. And so they're going after them because they cover Cuba. They cover Venezuela. They're like, on the ground doing important work in these different places and bringing a crucial perspective. And because they're anti-fascist, the Trump regime is coming after them aggressively under NSPM 7. We had Stephen Miller give that fascist speech the other day. They're basically saying, like, yeah, a new Red Scare is here. New McCarthyism is here. So they are being politically persecuted and subpoenaed by the Trump regime, basically trying to, like, bankrupt them and drag their name through the mud and put them through fucking hell, knowing they probably can't win any case against them, but just trying to make their life a living hell. So tune in to Crystal Kyle and Friends later. Rania Khalek is going to break it all down for you. Also, I'm going to highly recommend help them out with their legal defense fund, and you can see later, she'll tell you where to go in order to help them out with that. But it's very important, Crystal Kyle and Friends episode tonight. Of course, you can sign up below on Substack to see the full thing as soon as it drops, video style, or you can wait until tomorrow to get the full thing audio podcast style, which that's for free for everybody. But either way, super important episode, and you guys got to listen to it. And then finally, I'm going to end with this. Dan Goldman, okay, who is a Democrat who helped lead the Trump impeachment, but his fatal downfall was that he's also a rabid Zionist who is so deranged that he was spreading the Pallywood conspiracy theory, which is the idea that the Palestinians are basically faking their annihilation, and it's all fake, and it's all like Hollywood, and they're like lying about the mass death and all that stuff. I mean, just truly deranged. Well, anyway, this guy posted, quote, "If you were a supporter of the uncommitted movement," which of course was people saying, look, we're not committed to the Democrats unless and until they stop arming and funding a genocide, okay? Goldman says, which was significantly responsible for Trump 2.0, then you are in no position to demand anything from the Democrats. So think about what he's saying. If you have a conscience, and if you have a sense of morality, and you tell Democrats, hey, you need to be anti-genocide to earn everybody's votes. He's saying, no, fuck you. The Democrats don't have to do that. You can't demand anything. So Goldman is begging here for a Democratic Party to be allowed to be in favor of genocide. That's what he's saying here quite explicitly, quite directly. Can you imagine? Like, the idea, these people always used to say, oh, we got to grow the tent. It's a big tent party, big tent party, big tent party. Apparently, that big tent doesn't include people who are anti-genocide, doesn't include people who are DSA aligned, who are left-leaning, who actually are principled in their anti-war stance. Apparently, he's like, no, our big tent only includes people who are pro-war and who are pro-genocide. That is such a fucking insane thing to say. And by the way, it's also slandering the uncommitted movement, because I remember very well the uncommitted movement took a lot of shit from some people because they came out and said, we're endorsing against Donald Trump. Do not allow Donald Trump to get back in there because we know he will be objectively worse than any Democrat, including Kamala Harris. Right? And then they also said, we're not endorsing a third party. So you do the math on that. If they're endorsing against Trump and they're saying, don't vote third party, I wonder who they were fucking endorsing. But since what? They didn't like break out their pom-poms and cheerlead for Kamala Harris. Therefore, like, they're your enemy. Like, Jesus Christ. It's like these people want to lose. Dan Goldman wants to lose. He would rather lose and have a genocidal Zionist Democratic Party than win with an anti-genocide Democratic Party. I mean, it's disgusting. Like, what? Have you learned nothing after all this time? It's fucking disgusting, bro. Like, what the fuck? By the way, Haley Stevens is also crashing out, now out there openly accusing Abdul El-Sayed of being anti-Semitic, saying that he blames all his problems on Jews. Total fucking lie, total slander, total smear. And the reason she's crashing out is because there was a poll that just came out, had her 15 points down, and another one had her 17 points down. So this is what happens when they panic. They're in the corner. They're like, oh shit, we're getting draxed. So now it's, you're not welcome in the Democratic Party if you believe in democratic policies. And now it's, you must be anti-Semitic if you correctly criticize Israel and are anti-genocide. It's fucking gross. Now, here's the reality. Here's the sad thing. And perhaps this isn't sad. Perhaps this is great. What I would submit to you guys is, perhaps there's no room for you in the Democratic Party if you're pro-genocide. Just a thought. That if you're pro-genocide, that definitionally is an anti-democratic policy idea. And it's immoral and it's unethical. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at the Democratic base, I mean, shit, it's 80, 90% of the Democratic base that's like in agreement with people like me on Israel and on the issue of genocide. And like, I don't know what to tell you. The people are with us. The only people who are still like desperately trying to keep the party pro-Israel and pro-genocide are people who are paid by the Israel lobby, people who are corrupted by the Israel lobby, and people who are just fanatical Zionists who basically have a mental disorder, right, and have been brainwashed forever. So I'm sorry, maybe you're the one that's not fitting in this big tent. Sorry to tell you, Dan Goldman. Jesus Christ. But anyway, there you have it, guys. There are your updates for today. Love y'all very much. Like I said, tune into Crystal Kyle and Friends later today. Super, super important episode. You'll get a teaser clip or two that drop on the channel, but definitely listen to the whole thing when it drops. All right, I love y'all, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Trump ending the week with a lot of problems. Some say he hasn't made America great again. Maybe he's made Iran great again with their leverage over the strait. And now he's making oil companies great again. Big oil, we can report tonight, now formally raking in the expected record profits, all because of the Iran war. Exxon making $14 billion during the second quarter. That is double the same period last year. Chevron, $12 billion. That is up over 300%. Now, we've said around here before, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, and you don't need to be some kind of oil economist to understand why they're making that money. They're making it off you and anyone else who seems to have to buy oil today, or, of course, do anything that involves a supply chain. So whether you drive a car, or you get in an Uber, or you have something shipped, all of this money's up. We're all paying for it. The oil companies are making the money. We are paying more for gas. Trump, we should note, since he insists on trading so much, has shares in Exxon and Chevron. Critics argue there is a wider ring of corruption. Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal, with an expose today, reporting on what many see as Donald Trump's sort of shakedown of American business, what you see in a kleptocracy or sometimes in socialist countries where the government has too much control of the markets. The Journal reports that Trump is fixated on taking money from America's top companies, not through democracy where you might tax them in a normal way or have Congress and the American public involved, but rather he just wants to pull up about $800 million by shaking them down. And then that money goes not, again, to the general welfare. If you taxed companies and supported, say, Americans' health care, well, that would be democracy. But instead, It's all personal with him, routing it to the pet projects or the reflecting pool, the ballroom. Companies have traded notes about what one Wall Street analyst calls the Trump transaction tax, the Journal reports in this expose, which are payments outside of the cost of normally doing business. Another way of saying it is simply that we're replacing the free market with the market for Trump's affections. Remember, there are all kinds of debates in American politics. Larger government or small, more government intervention or less, more liberal or more conservative. That's not what we're living through, particularly in the unbridled second term of the Trump era, which might be one reason why he's so unpopular and so many independents and conservatives have turned against him, because it's not just betraying conservative principles, it's a type of self-dealing and corruption that most people don't recognize as ever occupying the White House. No other president has been so brazen as to take this much money out of U.S. companies and foreign governments for their own personal benefit. And then we have the petty projects that, again, as people pay higher gas prices, just sort of undercut his credibility. $5 million to wrap Washington statues in gold leaf, while Americans pay these higher gas prices and higher inflationary prices. And then we get this kind of advice from Trump officials.
Most of the cheap cuts of meat are very inexpensive. If you buy a porterhouse steak or a strip steak, it is gonna set you back. You can buy liver or the cheaper cuts of steak that are very, very affordable.
We once had let them eat cake. Now we have let them eat liver. Come on. Now, you can say, well, that's RFK Jr. and he does what he does, but there is a wider problem for Trump and a Republican Party running against these headwinds. One Republican is on the Senate floor saying Social Security is a scam. Not exactly the message you want in a midterm race in Florida, I can tell you that. Trump officials have changed rules that raise drug prices on seniors. The uninsured crisis rolls on. We were covering that earlier this week. There aren't always video, headlines, sort of ways to show the story, but the GOP cuts to health care are pushing people off insurance and putting more people.
Hey, Walter, don't nobody give a fuck if you recommend this channel. Get your bitch ass up off here. You fruitcake. Ain't nobody worrying about you, Walter. At all. You mad about this channel, but your dumb ass over here. Shut the fuck up. Go suck a dick. A big black one. While you at it.
In emergency rooms, the safety net undercut, the price of gas up. And the only people who seem to be looking around and saying, yeah, this sounds good, more of this, are people in Trump's family and inner circle who are corruptly benefiting, and apparently those oil executives who make a lot of money off you paying higher gas prices. Not every story is this simple, but this one is. If you ain't an oil executive or a Trump family member, I'm not.
His candidate, who's Ken Paxton, I think he'll win. I think probably he'll win very substantially.
Talked a lot about control of Congress for the midterms. The Senate balance of power could come down to just a handful of races this fall. One of them is shaping up as a very tight contest. New Fox polling shows Democrat James Tallarico with a 3-point edge on Republican Ken Paxton in Texas. Paxton defeated incumbent John Cornyn in the primary there. Democrats also hold a slight margin in the enthusiasm category. 59% of those surveyed said they are extremely motivated to vote. 53% say they are extremely interested in the election.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
Trump is not getting very good news out of Texas, of all places, he's received another alarming political warning, and it's coming from a state that Republicans usually can put their feet up on the table and assume they're going to win. A new poll of the state's U.S. Senate race shows that Democrat James Talarico is leading Republican Ken Paxton by 5 points. In Texas, the state the Republicans have treated for 3 decades as their electoral emergency savings account, the poll shows that Talarico is dominating among one specific group, and that's independents, while leading among voters without college degrees and attracting support from some Republicans who appear deeply reluctant to vote for Ken Paxton.
The President of the United States just said that I insulted Jesus. You want to know what insults Jesus? Kicking the sick off their health care while cutting taxes for billionaires. You know what insults Jesus? Deporting the stranger and separating babies from their mothers. You know what insults Jesus? Bombing innocent school children in Iran and sending our brave men and women off to die in another forever war. You know what insults Jesus? Covering up the Epstein files and then refusing to prosecute a single person in them. I am not a perfect Christian. I don't claim to be. There's only been one perfect Christian, and he was crucified on a cross 2,000 years ago. Jesus told us, he told us to love our neighbors as ourselves. He told us on earth as it is in heaven. Can we imagine war in heaven? Can we imagine bigotry in heaven? Can we imagine poverty in heaven? Then why do we tolerate these things on earth?
Now, I get it. Take polls with a pinch of salt, but this is not supposed to happen, right? Non-college voters are central to Trump's coalition. Independents helped return him to the White House. So when you see this happening in Texas, it is worth noting. I mean, Texas Republicans are supposed to begin statewide races with enough structural advantage that Democrats, they spend the final month discussing how losing by 4 points represents historic progress. But instead, Ken Paxton remains behind, according to this poll, and less than 1/4 of independents surveyed said that they would support Ken Paxton. Nearly 1 in 5 Republican respondents were either undecided or supporting Talarico.
Do you expect him to bring into the debate all the kinds of insulting junk he's been throwing around?
Well, you know, Ken Paxton has not accepted any of these debates yet. When I get tough questions, I answer them. When Ken Paxton gets tough questions, he runs away, literally runs away from reporters, from voters, from anyone asking hard questions. If you've given an Epstein-style sweetheart deal to an admitted child predator, you should have to answer the public's questions. If you were reported to the FBI for bribery by your own staff, you should have to answer the public's questions. If you become a multimillionaire on a government salary and now own 15 homes on the public's dime, then you should have to answer the public's questions. I get it. If I had Ken Paxton's record of corruption, I wouldn't want to answer these questions either. But he's asking for your vote. He is asking for your trust. And the people of Texas deserve answers. So I've challenged Ken Paxton to these 3 televised debates. The networks have already set the dates and the times and the locations.
Welcome to Frozen Barbecue. Please remain calm and hungry. Customer patience level unstable.
We're just waiting on Ken Paxton.
That is very interesting territory for a Republican in Texas, right? But if Republicans are to lose part of their own coalition in Texas, it's not merely a candidate problem, right? It's a Trump problem, because Ken Paxton is not running as an independent conservative who, happens to share several Republican policy positions. He is very much a full-blown MAGA candidate. Trump backed him. Paxton built his national identity, or trying to avoid any of his past discrepancies, around defending Donald Trump, challenging the 2020 election result, and presenting himself as one of MAGA's most aggressive legal warriors.
It's certainly critical to my state, and that's why we fought off these 12 lawsuits. We had them in Houston, we had them in San Antonio, we had them in Austin, we had them in the counties where you'd have the most liberal judges. And it was a concerted effort nationally with lots of money going into it. And just knowing that we had 12 losses that we had to win. And if we had lost one of them, like we lost Harris County, Trump won by 620,000 votes in Texas. Harris County mail-in ballots that they wanted to send out were 2.5 million. Those were all illegal, and we were able to stop every one of them. Had we not done that, we would have been in the very same situation. We would have been on election night. I was watching election night, and I knew when I saw what was happening in these other states that would have been Texas. We would have been in the same boat. We would have been one of those battleground states that they were counting votes in Harris County for 3 days, and Donald Trump would have lost the election.
So this race is therefore becoming a test of whether Trumpism can still deliver Republican victories in places where Republicans once barely needed to campaign at all. Now, of course, nobody's foolish here. One poll should not be treated as an election result, especially considering the fact that there hasn't been a Democrat elected statewide in Texas in since 1994. So Republicans retain a major organizational, geographic, and cultural advantage. Nobody is arguing that. But the important question when you look at a poll like this is not whether Democrats should start celebrating and measuring the curtains in the Senate office. It should be, why is this race even close, right?
So let me ask you about this poll that just came in here while we were talking in the past few minutes from Fox. Larry, the Republican Senate candidate Ken Paxton is now trailing the Democrat James Tallarico in Texas. Okay, Texas. This is the first public poll where either candidate has hit the 50% mark. Okay, it's Texas. It's an incredible thing to see this. It's also the end of July. Where do you see that race going?
I'm like all the other election analysts there, and I've been around a long time, and since 1994, I've gotten call after call virtually every day from Texans in politics on the Democratic side saying, this is the year, we're finally going to do it. But you know what? I'm starting to believe it's actually possible this year. Mm-hmm. Not just because James Tallarico is a great candidate, which he is, but Paxton is so awful. And I'm sorry to use that word, but, we used to have a word, a flaunter, meaning he's a sinner who flaunts the sin. And that pretty much has been the way Paxton has conducted his public career. A lot of these donors won't touch him. Notice he's not doing well at all raising money. It's because they have family and friends and businesses to protect, and they really don't want to identify themselves publicly with a candidate who has Paxton's record.
Trump carried Texas by approximately 14 points in 2024. A Republican Senate nominee should not be trailing a Democrat in a likely voter poll 2 years later if things were going well. Even a poll with CNN viewers in Texas should not be able to produce this result without finding genuine weakness within the current Republican coalition. But Ken Paxton losing independents decisively in the poll actually coincides with how independents feel across the board nationally, especially towards Trump and the Republican Party. They are losing independents decisively in almost every poll. And if you take a closer look at the issues addressed in the poll, like cost of living, it remains a major concern across Texas, including in heavily Hispanic border communities that swung dramatically towards Trump in 2024. Just as we've seen in poll after poll regarding the president nationally, even Fox News viewers feel that the affordability crisis is crippling, and they're blaming one person. That's the president.
Concerns among the GOP, some in the GOP, that they're not going to get the turnout they need in November.
But to Mark's point, and yours maybe, it's really important that Trump went out there. He said he would really throw himself into the midterms. He needs to do that, and a poll that just came out shows why. The big, beautiful bill, which Trump is talking about on the stump, has a terrible reputation. People don't like it. Even Trump's base doesn't like it, in my view, partly because Congress has been in a defensive crouch, refusing to tout the big, beautiful bill, refusing to tout, no taxes on overtime and all these things that these guys in Michigan, I think, are going to really applaud. So, he needs to sell this because Congress sure isn't.
We're going to talk about that this morning during the show, because you're right. Americans don't understand the big, beautiful bill. They don't realize what it did, and that's messaging. We're going to talk. Some senior citizens could face higher prescription costs in 2027 as the Trump administration plans to end a Medicare subsidy program for Medicare Part D drug plans at the end of the year. The White House says these subsidies only pushed insurers to raise rates, forcing the federal government to cover the cost. They also say that Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act already hiked premiums in Part D. Wall Street Journal reports, quote, the administration officials said around 25% of Medicare Part D plan enrollees would see premiums for their plans stay flat or go down next year. About 30% will have an increase of less than $10 to their monthly bill. For the remaining 45%, he said the increases are largely in the $11 to $20 range per month. Recent polling shows healthcare costs are a leading concern for voters amid the broader affordability problem, as we are less than 100 days away from the midterms, Maria.
So this does matter because Trump's 2024 gains in Texas were not based solely on ideological devotion. Many voters wanted lower prices. They wanted order at the border. They wanted a stronger economy. They were promised that Trump would deliver all of those things immediately and wouldn't get the US entangled in yet another foreign war. But the Associated Press has found that voters along the Texas-Mexico border especially have repeatedly cited high prices as a major concern, even in communities that had moved sharply towards Trump. One local voter was quoted saying bluntly that people expected a better economy and, quote, but obviously it didn't happen. So yeah, this is a danger for Trump. He won over voters who were dissatisfied with democratic governance, but dissatisfaction is not permanent partisan loyalty, right? Especially when you look at the fact that Tallarico is arguing that ordinary Texans work hard and are still, they can't get ahead because political leaders are serving powerful interests instead of working families. And when the president is saying that he doesn't consider Americans' financial situation at all when waging war.
Negotiating with Iran, Mr. President, to what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all. That's the only thing that motivates.
Or that the economy must be doing good because his mate was finally able to buy that private jet that he wanted.
A full cart that's lighter on your wallet. That's a breath of fresh air. Download the Upside app and get a $15 bonus on your first purchase.
They were born connected, conjoined twins. Where one went, the other followed. One.
But we passed the largest tax cuts in American history. We delivered 100% expensing. That's a big one. That's, I think, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country in my first term. We then got hit with COVID, but even including COVID, we did a great job in COVID. We never got credit for it, but every country was ripped apart by that disaster. We know where it came from. It came from Wuhan, and I said that. But we were all ripped apart, and China got hit very, very hard. It was delayed. They got hit very hard at the end. But it was a terrible thing, but we had the greatest economy in history. And before COVID, nobody had ever seen anything like it. But if you just took those 3 years and look at what we're doing now, we're going to blow them away. I mean, unless some horrible event happens, which is always possible, you know, we always have to at least think about the horrible events. Who would have thought that COVID could have happened? A thing like that could have happened. But we delivered 100% expensing, and that expensing, I think, we write it off in 1 year. I have friends that bought things that, frankly, they didn't need. I have a friend that never flew on a private plane in his life, and he ended up going out buying a very expensive private plane because of expensing 1 year.
Then Tallarico's message becomes ever so appealing, right? And that's dangerous for Republicans because it competes directly with Trump's original populist promise. Whatever way you want to spin it, Trump's political strength has always depended on appearing separate from the government that he controls, right? But he is the president, but yet also still presents himself as the opposition. Republicans are in control, but somehow Democrats remain responsible for everything that's going wrong. His administration runs economic policy, immigration policy, and foreign policy.
I bought the TX22 for her, and I will get a can later. Listen, man, I'm waiting for my my High Point 22 can to get here. For the price, you can't beat it, man. $159. Come on. Then whatever you transfer.
Don't go. I know I'm brand shaming. Don't go buy the High Point can, bro. It's some crazy 22 cans out there, man. Because it's some really nice 22 proven cans.
It's too late. I'm just waiting for it to ship. I already
No,
bought it.
you bought it. I'm talking about him. You don't. How you gonna recommend something you don't even got yet?
Hey, listen, guy,
I'll tell you,
it's
when you get ready
closing
to
up.
the 22 can, man, there's some nice ones out there, and they inexpensive too.
Listen, $159.
Get you something else, man.
Why?
I'd
What's wrong
recommend
with
the
a
GSL
can?
because they just jumped in the game, started making cans. I'm not saying they bad; they might be
I don't
great,
know
but
who
they
make it.
just. I would recommend for your first can, get
You
you
said
something reputable.
Roblox said, please don't. Nah, man. When I get it and I shoot it and it's quiet, then you're gonna be like, oh, okay.
You just almost recommended it to him just now because you bought one. No,
And
no,
and you can take it apart and clean it.
no. There
And you
goes
can take
dog.
it apart
Listen,
and
man.
clean it. You can take
There's
it
a lot
apart
of
and clean it.
nice 22 cans out there, man.
Listen, Ghost Dog. And you can take it apart and clean it.
My first can ever was a 22 can. It was the Q Erector. I love the can. Run like crazy.
Wow, this car lift looks cool.
Yeah, I just got it from Temu. Guess how much it costs?
$3,000?
No, this mid-rise scissor lift delivers 8,000 pounds of lifting power. It runs on a standard 110-volt outlet, no special set.
Congress passes laws. The president signs them. Federal agencies are supposed to carry them out. That's the way our Constitution was written. So what happens when an administration decides it should be able to ignore Congress and instead decide for itself which communities deserve federal funding and which do not? Today, we're talking about a proposed rule that hasn't generated many headlines, but could fundamentally reshape how more than $1 trillion in federal funding is awarded every single year, affecting everything from scientific research and clean drinking water to disaster recovery, public health, and the cost of childcare. I'm Jillian Blanchard, Senior Vice President of Climate Change and Environmental Justice at Lawyers for Good Government. And this is Resisting Injustice, where we look beyond the headlines to explain what legal stories actually mean and how they affect everyday Americans. Before we get started, please be sure to give us a like and subscribe so you can stay up to date on future episodes of Resisting Injustice here on Legal Aid.
The State Department says it takes full responsibility for hastily altering and then presenting a map of Africa at a global AIDS conference that mislabeled every single country it highlighted. Attendees shared photos of the incorrect map online. Coastal countries like Nigeria, Mozambique, and Cote d'Ivoire were all landlocked and in the wrong locations. Other countries' borders were misrepresented. An analysis by Reuters found a watermark in the map image that suggests it was made with OpenAI.
Okay. I mean, okay. So this is what incompetence looks like, all right? So on the national stage at an international conference, somebody hastily threw together a map using OpenAI, because this is what happens when you fire all the professionals in administration. This is what happens when Marco Rubio and Elon Musk came in and decided that thinking was woke and got rid of all the people with brains and hired a bunch of kids who know nothing about anything. And some clown in our State Department used OpenAI to quickly create a map for an international conference. Look, folks, I've been to these conferences. I was an Army officer for 22 years. Okay. You don't just hastily throw together a PowerPoint for an international conference, not knowing where the countries are in Africa. And it goes to all the things we've seen for a year and a half now, a clown show of incompetence. And look, we thought Trump 1 was bad. Trump 2 has been beyond measure of stupidity and corruption and chaos and lies and incompetence. And I think I already said that once. And I want to go to that, but we got such an important conversation today, but it's actually going to go a little bit more seriously than just the clown show of AI. But I want to set you up that way, that we've got people talking about AI, using AI as a tool for preparation. And then you got this president, and now things get serious because we're at war with Iran and our service members are in harm's way. And we've lost quite a few lately. And this is what's happened. We know now that our enemies, China and Russia, are helping Iran. Where do you think they got a lot of these weapons? Where do they think they sell their weapons to? It's Iranian drones raining down in Ukraine. So recently it came out, Zelensky and others, including the Secretary of War, have said that China is helping Iran, and Russia. Watch Trump on the airplane just here.
Zelensky says that Russia is giving Iran satellite imagery of U.S. bases in the Gulf to help them target. What can you do about that?
Well, we'll find out if that's. I'll ask Putin about it. We'll find out. Hasn't that much impact because we've knocked the hell out of it. When you think, if that's the case, look, they gave Venezuela a lot of equipment. Venezuela had all Russian equipment. How did that work out? Not too good. So they may be giving, but if they are, it hasn't worked out because they have no army, they have no air force, they have no navy, they have no nothing. So it hasn't worked out. But I don't think they've been doing it. Certainly not at a high level. And if they have, it has been very unimpactful.
Holding that word, unimpactful. That was July 20th. That was 2 days ago, right? Okay. Unimpactful. I'm going to pull myself out, let you watch this. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am a veteran of Iraq. I want you to watch this video, and I actually don't do trick. Warnings, but one for. That was impactful. And that's an attack on our air base in Jordan that ended up killing at least 4 of our service members. And they specifically targeted, now we know, what we call CHUs in the military, containerized housing. They targeted the housing area. They didn't target the airfield itself. Those strategic missiles targeted the housing area and ended up killing 4 of our troops. So for the President of the United States to go on and just wave off the impact by his friends, Putin and Z, is disgusting. Here, this is just him just asked yesterday.
And you said today that Russia and China are not helping. Earlier this week, the War Secretary Hegseth said that they are enabling. So what is the difference?
Well, I don't know that they're enabling. I mean, I will tell you that President Xi said he will not partake, and President Putin said the same thing. I think, I trust them. They've had a long-term relationship. There could be some things they do, but thus far, at least, it has not been major. I don't think they'd want to have me disappointed.
Don't want to have me
to the surface for which they're blaming poor Davy Hearn. Here's what Jeanine Pirro's office says in their motion. They say the following, that they're going to have to dismiss it because the reflecting pool failure, the damage of this waterproofing system, this 2-layer system of a substrate and then a polyurethane topping, which delaminated in sections when water penetrated it. That what we watched and observed, the floating chunks, was the result, quote, of flawed installation by the contractor. So first they try to throw the contractor under the bus, this Atlantic company, Atlantic Industrial Coatings, who had no experience doing anything quite like this 7-acre reflecting pool installation. And then they say that what Davy saw was the result of that flawed installation. They also go on to say that reflecting pool malfunction or delamination, quote, almost immediately began peeling after the work was completed, like within a day. And they throw the Department of Interior under the bus. That's Doug Burgum's department, Donald Trump's buddy. And they say that the Department of Interior provided less than fulsome information at the outset of this case. That's the National Park Service reporting to the Department of Interior. What, are you kidding me? Then you didn't read what was filed by the Park Service in the case involving the reflecting pool brought from the Cultural Landscape Foundation, because the guy that wrote it didn't talk about criminal vandalism. He said that there was no criminal vandalism that impacted the delamination process, but that huge sections delaminating, and the only other vandalism they saw is people were throwing fence post toppings into the reflecting pool in protest. And now here's where they get around to throwing Donald Trump under the bus. Just wait, everybody. They're going to be filing an amended motion as soon as Donald Trump and Todd Blanche figure out what just happened, because they didn't know, obviously, beforehand. This is what they said. It was not until after the return of the indictment against Davy Hearn that the Department of Interior provided additional documents to the Jeanine Pirro's office in D.C., indicating that the damage to the reflecting pool in June 2026 was the result of flawed installation by the contractor, Atlantic Industrial Coatings, and the rush to complete the project prior to the events associated with the America 250 celebration for Independence Day 2026. Well, who was in charge of the rush? Who cut the corners? Donald Trump. So they throw Donald Trump under the bus. In business, I'm always trying to make smart, informed decisions and get the best for less. But if I'm on
rip it back and just describe it in detail, because he maintains that it looks the same as it did before he arrived. That's his.
I'm not going to get into the evidence, but what I told you is what our witnesses saw and experienced. There was an effort, a violent effort to rip up the sealant from the bottom of the pool. And irrespective of whether or not, we think that, there is some situation that preceded it, we can state and prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he caused damage, and that damage is over $1,000.
Keying in on that, how do you prove that $1,000?
With an expert.
Big deal.
Come to the trial.
It has to be drained? Is that because it has to be drained?
We'll hear all that at the trial.
Did he have any tools, or was it just his bare hands?
Right now, we believe it's his bare hands, both hands.
So does that indicate in your belief that it was probably damaged before, or do you believe that he...
he damaged it.
Further, but do you believe it had already been damaged before?
He damaged the pool.
Before he touched it?
He damaged this pool.
But there have been, all these videos, obviously.
Well, good. I'm glad you've got that evidence. Come on in the grand jury. You can testify next.
And then after that, Doug Burgum, who's the head of the Department of Interior that she just threw under the bus, he went on ABC to be interviewed, and he said, there are multiple people that were indicted related to this. There was one person that was indicted on a felony named Davy Hearn. We just found out that he got dismissed. 3 other people were indicted for misdemeanors. But, we'll say anything on television. Here's Doug Burgum.
Smash that like button if you're just coming into the live. It's real easy. Takes no time at all, and it helps the channel out a great deal. Thank you in advance. We just gained 800 subscribers in 11 days. Shout out to y'all. Let's get to it. Double tap that screen. Hold me down.
Saying anything on television.
Half miles of expansion.
But it peeled off. Why? Why did that happen? Do you know?
It didn't peel off. There was vandalism. There was box cutters. There have been 7 arrests. There was people literally trying to destroy part of a monument. The reflecting pool is not just a pool on the wall. It is part of the Lincoln Memorial. And if anybody says that they're going to go and vandalize that, it's no different than if someone was throwing.
And you're 100% sure that what happened with the liner was vandalism. You can prove it.
Oh yeah, absolutely can. And as we drain it, we've got all the photographs we can see. I mean, there's no possible way.
With photographs of a person or people cutting a 300 or 350 foot gash in the bottom of the reflecting pool?
Dana, I'm not sure why you and others in the media think that you want to keep trying to question whether or not this is an industrial liner. Every farmer and rancher in America that's had their pickup liner lined by this sprayed on liner knows that you literally, it would never just like peel off or fall off. This is like a strong material.
Yeah.
And it's the size of 8 football fields. And the only way you can end up with actual slices in one spot and not the other is that someone physically cut it. And so but the pool itself, it's not leaking. It was leaking 45,000 gallons a day. It's finally been fixed by President Trump. And the American flag blue is working perfectly.
Okay.
And again, it's beyond me why. I mean, the real scandal is about the fact that the state of our capital was in such total disrepair that some people, no one was reporting about. No one was reporting about the pro-Hamas graffiti on the.
Mr. Secretary, you and I talked about this last month.
Yeah, and we're still talking about it.
Well, because it was July 4th and the reflecting pool was closed.
It was closed because it's surrounded by fireworks. It's closed every year on the 4th of July.
But it was closed prior to that in order to fix the reflecting pool.
But it was closed because the largest fireworks display in the country we talked about was set up, and it lines either side of the reflecting pool. You can't have people around fireworks when they're being set up. Now that the fireworks will come down, the fence will come down. The fence was there because of the fireworks.
Copy that.
Yet another embarrassment for Todd Blanche and his Department of Justice. Who do you think Jeanine Pirro works for? She works for Todd Blanche, the guy that can't seem to count to 11, let alone 12, to get 12 or 11 votes to have his nomination for Attorney General. He's been dying to get. He's been passed over for the job the last 4 or 5 times. What he didn't have to do as a quid pro quo to get the job, including forming the Jan 6 fund and creating a super pardon immunity release for Donald Trump of tax liability. Does he really need Jeanine Pirro having to dismiss the infamous reflecting pool indictment of Davy Hearn? I mean, come on. But I told you, there was a warranty. This was a warranty job. Once the contractor said 2 weeks ago on its website that this is a warranty job, that means there wasn't any criminal mischief or criminal malicious conduct, and Davy Hearn was off the hook. I even said, Norm, get a copy of that posting on the website for Atlantic Industrial and shove it up their backside.
Smash that like button.
I'm glad we're here together on Legal AF on the Midas Touch Network. I'm on vacation. You can't take a holiday with this administration, can you? Until my next report, hit the free subscribe button on Legal AF YouTube channel. I'm Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.
Do you remember, dear viewer, the saga of the reflecting pool? Of course you do. How Trump's American flag blue swimming pool liner started falling apart days after it was installed, awarded a no big contract, and then the whole thing turned green. And then how Trump, in the most embarrassing performance of his second term, which is a crowded field, tried to blame it on vandals and saboteurs.
We have I think 290, 300 foot slit right through it, probably a box cutter or a knife of some kind. They cut it up with a box knife and tried to destroy it. And it's in great shape now. They're terrible. They're vandals. They took a cutter, a box cutter or something very sharp. And can you imagine, where did these people come up with this? And they cut, and then they started ripping it up. You know why? Because they're sick people.
Now, as obvious as it was that it wasn't vandals who screwed up the reflecting pool, we all knew that, Trump's people began arresting tourists and people like former Olympic athlete David Hearn for touching the pool, water in the pool, and accusing them of cutting or otherwise damaging the ill-planned rubberized pool coating that was peeling for all to see. In fact, we interviewed Mr. David Hearn and his lawyer here on this program less than 2 weeks before Trump's hand-picked U.S. attorney for D.C., Jeanine Pirro, announced a federal felony charge against him.
The evidence shows, and we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that Hearn willfully destroyed property at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool.
Let me just repeat that in case you missed it. The evidence shows, and we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that Hearn willfully destroyed property at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. Well, tonight, prosecutors filed a motion to dismiss that indictment against Hearn. Just 1 week before they were set to face the judge overseeing the case in the hearing. In tonight's truly shocking, amazing 20-page filing, prosecutors in Jeanine Pirro's office say the government received new evidence indicating that, and we quote here, damage to the Lincoln Memorial
Bill Clinton punked you, and that is your claim to fame. What's up, my friends? Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, this guy was absolutely crazy. He was a guy who came on the live to talk absolute junk, and the tables turned on him very quickly. Because a quick Google search will show you that he was a very big heckler of Bill Clinton when it comes to the idea of Pizzagate. I think that something happened in which some very powerful people went after him for spreading absolute lies, and he changed his tune almost immediately. You know, it's really interesting when the law comes and faces these conspiracy theories, how quickly they are to go and change their tune. It's absolutely crazy. It was a fun time, just honestly, just screwing with this guy. You know what? That's really what it was. We're having a great time just screwing with him. I want you guys to watch it, and I'll see you guys around.
Isaiah, what's up, brother?
Look how it is, Howard. How are you, buddy?
Dude, I saw you on CNN, man. That was unbelievable.
I know, right?
How the hell did you get on CNN?
You know, Howard, that's just how it is.
And you're complaining about Trump. Look, Donald Trump created a black job.
Howard.
And you're complaining?
Look at you race baiting again, Howard.
He got you on CNN.
Oh, Howard, look at you race
failed
baiting.
politician sitting on a panel with, what's her name, Abby, whatever? I don't watch CNN.
Oh, look at Howard. You know, look, he's here on a Thursday and he's race baiting again.
The DNC is broke, and you said... When did Mondami say he wants to get rid of the prisons? And you
Howard.
got right in her face and you just stared at her with that smile. Of
Howard, you know it's
that
really
was
interesting.
so performative.
You know,
that was amazing.
You know it's so fascinating to me, Howard, is that
What's
yes,
that, Isaiah?
I debate in front of millions of people on CNN, and you get thrown
You
out.
were not failed politician sitting on a panel with, what's her name, Abby, whatever? I don't watch CNN.
Look at Howard. You know, look, he's here.
I think we should get off the plantation.
What's Trump doing?
They're doing a lot for us.
Like what? He couldn't even. Not a damn thing. Couldn't even tell me one thing.
I think we should get off the plantation.
What's Trump doing?
They're doing a lot for us.
Like what?
When you have a problem that is exacerbated by the open border policy.
What is that open border policy? Can you define what that means?
I can tell you that there were
What does that
there were
mean?
3,000
No, I'm
murders
not-
committed
I'm
by
not asking
illegal
about that.
aliens.
I'm asking you,
I mean,
what
talk to the families of
No,
Lake and
no,
Riley.
no,
Talk
no.
to the families of some of these people
asking you,
that should
what
not be
is the
dead right
open
now
border
and
policy?
are
Can you
because
define
of those
what that
policies.
means? What policy?
Letting people flow over the
How did
border
they let?
without
There's with still immigration officers. What are you talking
those,
about?
they were
define the policy.
instructed to allow those people to come into
But
this
define
country
the policy,
without-
though. Are you saying that immigration officers weren't there along the southern border during the time that Biden was in office? Are you
I think
denying that?
it's well established. When you have a problem that is exacerbated by the open border policy.
What is that open border policy? Can you define what that means?
I can tell you that there were
What does that
there were
mean?
3,000 murders committed by
I'm
illegal
asking
aliens.
you, what
Talk to the families of Lake and Riley. Talk to the families of some of these people that should not be dead right now and are.
Can you
because
define
of those
what that
policies.
means? What policy?
Letting people flow over the
How did
border
they let?
without
There's with still immigration officers. What are you talking
those,
about?
they were
define the policy.
instructed to allow those people to come into this
Define
country
the policy,
without-
though. Are you saying that immigration officers weren't there along the southern border during the time that Biden was in office? Are you denying that?
I think it's well established.
I think that if the president was having this negative impact across the entire country, then Democrats would be doing a lot better as the opposition party.
We've won pretty much every special election
we're
there
doing
is.
pretty good.
We won in
The current
Kentucky,
generic
we won in
ballots,
Louisiana. Trump's own
according-
state house district has been won by a
to-
Democrat. That's pretty successful, I would say.
According to the last Reuters poll, Democrats
I'm not talking
consistently...
about polls, I'm talking about election
I'm
results.
talking about polls because we're getting closer
Well, we're
to the
talking about
midterms.
election results.
We're talking about the
Democrats
generic
are winning
congressional ballot, as my point was. If the president is so detrimental to everything, I should see the Democrats skyrocketing in all of the
He's
polls.
losing almost every special election there is.
about this.
So I should expect to see voters trusting Democrats over Republicans, and I'm not seeing that.
You are seeing that. You are seeing that in polls.
Again,
why we won in Georgia, why we won in Texas, why we won in Kentucky, all across this country. Voters are choosing Democratic candidates in special elections. What are you talking about?
Again, what I'm seeing, according to all of the data that comes out of the pollsters, from Ipsos to Reuters, all the way over to the Morning Consult.
Yes. I care about
well, like I said, I mean, do you think that the election results matter more, perhaps, than the polls?
I do. I do think that there are a lot of primaries and also the Supreme Court elections, for example, that seem to dispel a lot of narratives on money buying elections entirely. Tom Steyer not pulling out his California election, Elon Musk not being able to buy the Elon Musk Supreme Court situation.
Texas special elections. Louisiana. Chastity Martinez won a big special election. Kentucky, Trump's own state house district where Mar-a-Lago is, was won by a Democrat. All these Trump won districts are being won by Democrats. That's showing that people are choosing common sense Democrats over what the Republicans are pushing. It is not common sense for more tariffs. It is not common sense to go forward and push the policies that Trump has been pushing.
Look, none of
I think that if the president was having this negative impact across the entire country, then Democrats would be doing a lot better as the opposition party.
We've won pretty much every special election there is.
doing pretty good.
We won in
Current
Kentucky,
generic
we won in
ballots,
Louisiana. Trump's own state house district has been won by a Democrat. That's pretty successful, I would say.
According to the last Reuters poll, Democrats
I'm not talking
consistently...
about polls, I'm talking about election
I'm
results.
talking... about polls because we're getting closer.
We're talking about election results.
We're talking about generic congressional ballots, as my point was. If the president is so detrimental to everything, I should see the Democrats skyrocketing on all polls.
But in the words,
I think that if the president was having this negative impact across the entire country, then Democrats would be doing a lot better as the opposition party.
We've won pretty much every special election there is.
doing pretty good.
Current generic ballots, Trump's own state house district has been won by a Democrat. That's pretty successful, I would say.
According to the last Reuters poll, Democrats are talking about polls because we're getting closer.
We're talking about election results.
We're talking about generic congressional ballots, as my point was. If the president is so detrimental to everything, I should see the Democrats skyrocketing on all polls.
He's losing almost every special election there is.
So I should expect to see voters trusting Democrats over Republicans, and I'm not seeing that.
You are seeing that. You are seeing that.
Again, why we won in Georgia, why we won in Texas, why we won in Kentucky, all across this country. Voters are choosing Democratic candidates in special elections. What are you talking about?
Again, what I'm seeing, according to all the data that comes out of the poll.
Hunt down your opponents in Raid Shadow Legends. Use this promo code to get the legendary Cheshire Cat for free.
A full cart that's lighter on your wallet. That's a breath of fresh air. Download the